Welcome to another episode of New Jersey Mat Chat. I'm Pete and this is Doug, and today we have a special episode focused on strength and conditioning. Today's guest is Joseph McAuliffe, the owner and founder of JMPowerU. Doug, tell us a little bit about Coach Joe.
Joe McAuliffe is a long-time powerlifting legend coach. No more knowledge. There's no one more knowledgeable than him. We were definitely eating some knowledge in Eatontown, New Jersey, for sure. Great story, great guy, a lot of knowledge. It's a must-watch.
And it's a special one because this is our first on-location podcast.
On-location, correct.
So check it out.
New Jersey!
You know, let's start talking about the kids who aren't ever talked about.
Exactly. Welcome to Jersey Mat Chat.
Here we are at JMPowerU in Eatontown, New Jersey, just outside of Ocean Township. I'm here with owner and longtime operator, Joe McAuliffe. Joe, thanks for having us here. Appreciate you, man.
Good to see you.
Buddy.
Good to see you, Doug.
So how about a general background? What does Joe McAuliffe do? What does he represent?
I have been a strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer since 1987.
Long time.
So I've coached over 10,000 humans, mostly athletes, but still, you know, I work a lot with adults in general health and fitness. But, you know, my passion is helping kids become the best version of themselves while at the same time becoming the healthiest version. Because we know now in my industry, we got to teach these kids self-care. And wrestling is by far and away my favorite sport. I'm a junkie myself. I'm still a competitive power lifter, so it makes me connected to the kids. I'm training right now for my own state championship. I won gold last year at the IPF World Bench Press, and the kids love it. They connect to it. Every time I eat a piece of steak or some broccoli, they're always talking to me, Coach, what do you eat? What do you eat? Yeah. So it's a great camaraderie in my little dojo here. I've been at a couple of different facilities over the years, but this is my sanctuary.
It's incredible.
It is.
It's incredible. I mean, you walk in and you just, well, personally, it just smells like testosterone. I don't know. Does that have an odor?
It does, absolutely. And some of the gals I train here too, they've got plenty of it too. We got some badasses.
So what percentage of your clients are wrestlers?
Ooh, right now, I'm gonna say between 30 and 40%.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say that you are a wrestling specific trainer.
Oh yeah, I have kids as young as 10.
Wow. Okay.
All the way up to college age wrestlers, kids home for the summer.
What's a 10-year-old wrestler? What can they expect, or their parents, I should say? What could they expect bringing a 10-year-old wrestler in here to begin weight training?
I will go back to my buddies, the Rosses. If you know the Ross twins,
Yes.
They're kind of known in youth wrestling.
Yeah, they're studs.
They came to me at 10, and when they came in with their dad, first I evaluate. And you have two twins like that, and you can have two different kids.
Sure.
So what you have to do is evaluate for the individuality. I have a clear-cut method that really works, but it has to be adjusted for the kid. One kid might sleep 8 hours and be very good at his food and hydration and come in here ready to go like the Hulk. And the other one didn't eat enough, didn't drink his water, didn't get to sleep. And after 2 sets, I have to adjust. So the thing that I talk to parents about a lot after the health history, the nutrition history, I do like a 32-point assessment on them. I will test their power, their strength, their speed, their agility, their flexibility, do all of that, and then come up with a plan that fits them and their lifestyle as wrestlers.
So over the years, you've been doing this for a long, let's call it, 35 years?
Yeah.
30, all right.
Yep.
Over 35 years, how have you adapted as a trainer to the generational differences between kids? Our generation obviously has changed, and it'll always continue to change. So how old are you?
I'm 60 this summer.
Okay, 60 years old. How can you relate to a 15-year-old kid in 2025?
Fortunately for me, again, being an athlete and still loving my sport and getting glee and joy from training connects me to them a little bit. But if you look at my evolution, I started doing this before I was married with children.
Good show, by the way.
Well, my favorite.
Yeah.
But when my son Aiden was born, it evolved me. Whether you like it or not, you evolve.
Yeah.
So Having a toddler at home made me see the world a little bit different. Believe it or not, the science of training elite level athletes, whether it's Frank the Tank Molinaro, a national champ, an Olympian, all the way down to your 10-year-old rec kid who's just looking to get better, the methods and what we use are the same. We teach them a little bit about Olympic weightlifting. We teach them some powerlifting. We teach them some strongman. If they want to grow up a weight class, we teach them the bodybuilding techniques. There are some kids, like even my son, who's a powerlifter, who has come in here and he hasn't gained a weight class in 3 years. All that's happened is he's just gotten stronger because of the method is not to get bigger.
Yeah.
So figure out what the kid needs, and then I will implode or insert the proper work for them. Over the years, and I have to say, since the cell phone has been invented, when you look at humans before cell and humans now, kids are with a teeny bit less training energy, because by the time they get to training, their dopamine gets zapped by the phone. Sometimes these kids are up at night with electronics in their face till late, so the quality of their sleep isn't as good. So as time has gone on, I have been able to learn, if I was a fastball pitcher, man, I've learned how to throw that curve in the off-speed pitch. So I have to be able to, you get what you get, and if a kid shows up, by gosh, I'm gonna give them a workout. And some days the workouts are gonna be a little bit different because I know that they're a little bit zapped sometimes with their overall energy.
Well, speaking of cell phones, so your typical teenage athlete nowadays, okay? I think they tend to gravitate more towards the trendy stuff they see on TikTok, the gimmicky workouts.
Yes.
With your age and with your experience, it's safe to say you're an old school mindset with that?
I'm an evidence-based coach.
Okay.
I might look like a meathead, but I'm a scientist.
Okay, so old school, an iron dojo.
Yes.
Clanging iron weights compared to today's gimmicky, trendy stuff. So elaborate on both.
Well, there are a number of different ways you can approach strength and conditioning in a gym. Now, going to a big box facility, you see a lot of kids go to a health club. Why? A lot of them don't want to be coached anymore. They want to be free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You put a teenage boy in a weight room by himself, he'll never do what he needs. He'll always do what he wants. What do they want to do? They want the flex for the Instagram.
Yeah.
They want to look cool online. They want to try this funky, new, crazy ass movement that they saw. Yeah. When the reality is, I can give you some really good data, okay? Kids that train in a movement system, mine is a movement system. I studied kinesiology. When you train the body to move like an athlete, never ever does a wrestler just go on a mat and just use his arms. Right. So what we do with athletics, all the other sports included, a movement-based program works not only to look good in the mirror, but those are the kids that dominate on the mat because those movements should transfer. One of the things, I hold up my program to the results. Tanner Hodgins benched a PR for 2 the other day. We get results there. Yeah. But more importantly, how's he looking on the mat? How quick is he? Yeah. How resilient is he against injuries and movement versus the bro split? Kids are doing bro splits. They're walking in one day shoulders, next day arms, next day calves, next day quads. That is more of a specific bodybuilding protocol that the big bodybuilder on the YouTube does, but that's not a 15-year-old boy who's just going through puberty, what they need. So it's movement-based that is really the thing that works the best.
So you mentioned PRs, okay? Everyone, tries to obtain PRs, on a somewhat regular, I guess, basis. But is regression a part of progression?
I love this question.
Okay.
Regression is negative. You'll never hear a negative word come out of my mouth when we're here. Kids today see the word as regression as, again, a substandard, a non-progression day.
Right.
It's all about adjustments. So regression scientifically is the proper term. I could sit here with a bunch of PhDs and we could talk about progression through regressions, going from a back squat to a kettlebell front squat, maybe a split squat, not as much weight, not as much like bar on the back. If you're having a tough time with your back, you can regress. But I always just tell the kids, it's adjusting. You have to adjust to how you feel. You have to adjust to where you're at in the season. The only reason that I let Tanner do that is that the US Open was over and he felt good. He was all reloaded and everything, so we went for it. But if you get into progression through regression, that really with the kids is only when there's an injury or a scheduled break, like after states, like he said, you take your week off. Is that regression? No, I really think that a week off after states is part of your progression because you're resting, you're recovering, you're rebooting your energy to train. So I like adjustments versus regressions.
What about, let's say a 14-year-old wrestler comes in here and he wants to start training with you. Pre-puberty.
Yeah.
Okay, pre-puberty. When puberty hits that wrestler, what's the first thing that you, other than physical traits, appearance, is there usually a jump in performance or a...
Oh, there's absolute. And I'm glad that we're talking about this because once that hormone starts to hit, they want to max out every day. So in
the mirror,
sticking point is always, and I sometimes spend half of my session talking them off the ledge and saying, we're not demonstrating, you're not here to outlift your friend or demonstrate online that you can bench 225. Demonstration isn't development. Development is built through reps, executed, layered workouts that layer with good quality reps, with good quality form, submaximal. Trying to get these kids to understand that submaximal training layered is way better than going in the gym once a week and seeing what you can bench. So development versus demonstration, and the hormones, they help tremendously add volume capability. The kids that hit the hormones, they can build the lean muscle like that. But then you have the conundrum of that little 106 and watching Debo's program carefully because he would have hulked out if I gave him bodybuilding program. That dude would never have been able to make the lighter weight class if he had done bodybuilding programs, which boys love to do. That's what they
speaking
do.
Speaking of hulking out and bulking out, explain how it's possible to be bulky and flexible.
If you lift weights with proper form and know how to warm up, a lot of them, they just want to come in.
Of course.
You turn your back and boom, they're on the bench. Wait a minute.
Of course.
Where's our warm-ups?
Right.
If you warm them up right, I love overhead squats and different types of movements like that to stretch the whole body out. I let them climb the rope and hang on the rope because it's not this fixed movement like on a deadlift or on a squat or on a bench press. So a kid that's bulky, let's say you're 215 or your heavyweights, if you look at some of these guys that have amazing athleticism, it's because they know how to warm up, their technique is perfect, and they cool down and stretch. No kid is really allowed to leave until they've sat on the floor and done some parasympathetic neural relaxation to work on their flexibility. That's the only time a kid can really get more flexible. If he's tight in the hips, it's at the end of a session when he's tired and the muscles are more pliable. I really try to get my wrestlers to embrace 5 to 10 minute yoga thing on the YouTube before they go to bed. Embrace deep breathing and yoga as a part of what we do here.
Well, it's an instantaneous world. You can get information on your phone in 6 seconds.
Yes.
A wrestling match takes 6 minutes.
Yep.
How do you convince someone to be patient for 6 months to get the results that they need in this world of instant gratification?
Well, as you walk,
they gotta buy into that.
When you walked through here,
you
see lots and lots of pictures of championship wrestlers, from the youth all the way up to a kid, a young man like Frank Molinaro. And it's great because I text Frankie every now and then for wisdom for the youngsters. And this is a life skill. Strength is a life skill. I care about you as an adult. I look at these kids and I say, I care about you when you're 30, 40 years old and you've just had your first kid. If you take strength as a habit and learn some things about the habitual lifestyle that strength and conditioning should offer, see, sports should give you all these other things. We know wrestling builds character. It should make a good life for you.
Yeah.
Strength training should make a good life, not just a big bench press. But I guarantee you hang with me, and those big numbers, like if you look at max outs, I only really recommend a max out every 4 to 6 weeks. So if you look on a calendar in a year, we're only gonna max out, what, 6, 7 times in the entire year. So the kids that buy into the 100 session rule, if you can train with these compound lifts, the compound lifts versus the isolation lifts, the compound lifts, 100 sessions a year, that ends up being like twice a week. Sometimes in the off season, the kids will go an extra, like right now, Tanner, Palumbo, Reyes, they're all doing 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But then when the season rolls around, it comes back to be 2 days and then 1 day. And then we're dealing with boo-boos and bumps and bruises, and I try to make sure that the off season, when they're not involved in big meet prep or big tournament prep, that's when they're gonna hit their biggest lifts. And then what we do is we maintain that maximal strength for as long as they're lifting regularly at about 60 to 80%. That's it, it's the magic. Trust me, 60 to 80% is all they need to put in their hands. Couple of reps twice a week.
So what's the difference between reaching, as a teenage athlete, reaching your peak and then understanding it might not be a peak, that might just be your capacity?
Right.
So what, is there a difference?
Well, it depends on what your goal is. Like I know, I use Frank Molinaro a lot because he's a great example, right?
Yeah.
For him, it was being an Olympian.
Yeah.
And he was going, there are some kids that the peak of their career is high school, right? His senior year in high school. My son wants to have his best year. He's breaking out of the JV this year. We know he's gonna, as a senior. There are some kids that want to wrestle in college. So when do you reach your peak? For me, as a competitive power lifter, I didn't do my best lifts until my late 30s. I didn't bench 600.
So the human body
40.
is designed to continue to grow.
Absolutely, and develop strength. See, you can get stronger without getting bigger. Bigger oftentimes means stronger, but you see some kids that all they do is bodybuilding protocol. They have these beautiful muscles that they can't function. They get, caught in a damn headlock or whatever. They can't get out of it because they're not functionally strong. Lifting weights and doing those things like Olympic lifts, powerlifting, strongman, that gives you the functional ability to take it on the mat. I'm gonna just squeeze you with my gorilla grip and I'm gonna win on hand control alone. The wrestling world every year seems to peak around states, right? So most of the kids that I'm working with are thinking about Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna peak wrestling wise in Atlantic City, you would want to be doing your biggest, best lifts November, December, and then keeping your strength throughout the season.
Now, what about continuing to grow physically, getting stronger, but from a wrestler standpoint, getting smaller?
Being leaner. Okay, there is a
leaner is the right word. Yeah.
There is a Mason-Dixon line, 5%. 4% body fat. If they stay down below 5% for too long, that's when we look at having some health problems. And it can mess with the head too. So the reality is that you want to be able to have your season where you're wrestling up, and then the kids that really got to cut for the thing that boom, then for the postseason, they go down and hold on to it for a couple of weeks and pray, that the kid that's been cutting for too long, if you notice, they get colds easier. I've seen strep throat. If you talk to Jamesy Farina, ask him what happened last year at States. He had like pneumonia. He couldn't go through. He would have been a placer, I'm sure of it, because the immune system gets beat up, and it down regulates when you get too lean, just like it down regulates when you get too fat. So ultimately, it's somewhere between 5% is your elite Olympic dude who's shredded, who's sliced and diced, who's performing at the highest level. And then with too much body fat, you don't want to see any male wrestler over 23 to 25%. Then we're talking about health consequences.
Yeah. So how do you work through peaks?
Working through peaks on my end.
Yes.
Okay. Working through peaks on my end, I am the guy in the back, always talking to my guys about sleep, always talking about, okay, what are we eating? Okay. And we'll talk more about food in a minute.
Yeah.
What are we eating? Okay. When was the last workout? How'd it feel? Knees a little funky. Let's do RDLs and not squats this week. Being able to work around the brutality. It's a brutal sport. So being able to work around it. You know, I got kids in slings that walk in here and they're working the other arm, they're working the legs, they're working the abs. If you can stand up, you can train.
Yeah.
And that's the way you work through, because every wrestler is going to be beat up. Every single one of them is going to have some kind of thing nagging throughout the year. Because if you're not, and you get to Atlantic City, like, what kind of schedule did you wrestle to get here?
Yeah.
You know?
Let's assume I'm a parent and I just can't afford your services.
Right.
Whatever your services are.
Right.
And let's say I'm too proud to ask for a charity angle on your end.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you recommend to the parents who can't afford to hire a private trainer or a private nutritionist? What's some of the basic foundations of strength training they can do in their own garage, or their own bedroom, their own backyard, or anything along those lines?
Learn the skills. And if they're on their own, I always recommend that they have somebody with them. Never lift alone. Too many kids actually end up dying because they're bench pressing alone.
Yeah.
Don't lift alone. Learn the skills of the Olympic lifts, Olympic weightlifting. Learn the skills of powerlifting. Learn the skills of strongman. And those infused together, boom, as the magic of elite strength, power, speed. The bodybuilding exercises can help build their bodies up into new weight
If I had a barbell and two 45-pound plates, and let's say that's all I had,
right,
could I get results?
100%.
Give me a prime example of how I could get results with one barbell and a 45-pound plate on each side.
Dougie, I could train you in a gravel pit if I had to.
Well, how could I get results? Tell me.
Well, depending on how strong you are and how much you weigh. So let's say you're a 100-pound wrestler, that 135 is going to be a significant load.
Right.
But let's say it's Alex Reyes and he comes in here and he throws some weight on, or Tyler Palumbo, Tanner, whoever. They can get results out of that. They're just going to have to do more reps. But I would do power cleans.
Okay.
I would do front squats. I would do push press. And then I would do an RDL. You've just worked the entire body.
You answer my question.
Complexes.
Yes.
Complex barbell definitely works.
Okay.
Definitely.
I have no barbells, no weights, nothing of that in my home. How can I get stronger?
Jump, throw, sprint, leap, push-ups, pull-ups, pistol squats. Body weight, body weight, body weight, body weight. As a matter of fact, the youngsters that come in here, yes, I do let them lift. But the youngsters who haven't mastered body weight, Doug, I am a stickler. Until you can really do push-ups and pull-ups really well, I'm not going to go nuts with you on the bench press. It's silly.
No, I hear you.
If you can't squat on one foot like a pistol squat, I'm not throwing, 225 on your back. The reality is that the human body, I'm a big Jack LaLanne fan. I grew up watching Jack LaLanne. He was my hero. The body weight, especially even for the lower weight divisions, the body weight can be enough to develop elite fitness. Now, if you have a twin brother, then you throw that twin brother on your back and you do farmer's carries, you do push-ups with your twin brother on your back.
Absolutely.
That type of stuff, body weight is always at the foundation of my program. I'm glad you asked. 100%.
So now this ultimately all revolves around what you put in your body. Eating, diet, any form of nutritional, direction that you're going in.
Yeah.
So let's start from the worst case scenario. what is the silly question, but we're talking about teenagers.
Of course.
What's
silly.
What's the best shitty food you can eat?
What is the best shitty food? I love that question. That's a good question.
Because teenagers are going to eat shitty food.
Okay.
So what's the best shitty food to eat?
The best shitty food to eat is the one with the smallest ingredient label and that is less prepared by other human beings. The more, like for me, quote unquote, my shitty food is dark chocolate, dates, peanut butter, and honey.
Okay.
Even though they're all
good.
They're all good, but they're single ingredient whole foods.
Imagine the world without peanut butter.
I can't.
I wouldn't want to live here.
I would not either.
I wouldn't
brother.
want to live here.
Yeah, now we're
now
we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
little bond here.
Yeah, come on now.
Okay.
I do chocolate, peanut butter, Greek yogurt, bro. Badass. 50 grams of protein.
Love it.
But when they go out, for example, like to say I'm not even going to plug it, but there's this famous chain that sells chicken. Right? Mm-hmm. If you go out to this famous chain that sells chicken, try to get the char-broiled chicken sandwich versus the deep-fried chicken sandwich. Maybe get those char-broiled chicken bites versus the deep-fried.
But no, from my understanding, I'm going to plug them, but Chick-fil-A's standard chicken sandwich, what is it, 500 calories, 480 calories, something along those lines?
Right.
That's a shitty food that's wrestler friendly.
It is, absolutely.
Very wrestler friendly.
When you're doing caloric deficit and if you're looking at fuel in versus fuel out, of course, caloric deficit is critical. But the quality of the fuel source will definitely show up on the mat. If it's poor quality all the time, these are the dudes that run out of gas. The guys, and again, you can look in the back at states. I loved watching my guy, Al DeSantis. You remember Big Al from Shore? How he had his watermelon and his honey. Yanni is known for date syrup. How each one of the guys, and most of the kids now in the back are paying attention to that. Correct. However, there's still lots of rappers. Yeah. There's still lots of rappers. So again, when you're eating shit food, stay away from the deep fried stuff if you can, and try as best you can to get the least amount of ingredients. Like some of the sauces, bro, at that place taste so good, but dude,
1,000 calories for something.
But you look on the label, you got this many ingredients. It's like you can't even pronounce.
I know. So if I had to ask you, I'm going to give you two options. You pick one, just for generalization purposes. Red meat or white meat?
Red meat.
Okay. Fruit or vegetable?
Fruit.
Okay. Grass-fed or let's put it this way: if you're gonna venture off into the dairy portion of a diet, okay, we've all heard cows are grass-fed or whatever, chickens or whatever, any
free range,
whatever you want to call it,
grass-fed, wild caught.
So let's get into that real quick. Is that all just promotional bullshit, or does that really have any kind of health benefits or nutrition benefits?
I can honestly say with excitement that you're looking at a 60-year-old who does grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, farm-fresh eggs. I go to the farm. To me, it's very, very important. And now I've become a cook. In the last decade,
feel different?
100%.
Okay. You might look different, but how do you feel?
Well, I bench press double body weight, and I have the #1 bench press in the world. I can do 60 push-ups in a row, and I can still run the mile in under 9 minutes. So my health markers are much better now than they were when I was 50. I was 218 pounds when I turned 50, and eating, although the right amount of protein, the right macros, you can have the right macros, protein, carbs, fat. But if those macros are mostly made up of processed or ultra processed foods, plus you throw a few beers in, you have a recipe for gaining visceral body fat, which I can't have.
So if you went off the Joe McAuliffe diet for, let's say, 30 days, and you ate everything you weren't supposed to eat, at your age, well, not even mentioning your age, how fast would your performance just plummet?
Did you ever see the documentary on the dude that did the McDonald's
I did.
for 30 days?
I never saw the entire thing.
But
Yeah.
to look at his blood work in 30 days,
Yeah.
it really is possible in America to go from flying high in the sky to the depths of degradation.
I'm in depths of degradation. I'm a walking billboard for unhealthy eating.
Well, the reality is that you, even with
But I'm not
just,
an athlete either.
but with little subtle changes, you can feel better. See, for me, I get paid to bring energy.
Yeah.
And you'll see when the kids walk in here,
Yeah.
the first thing when they walk in, they get, let's go. And the energy goes up here. That's what I get paid to do. So whether it's my 7:30 early appointment, she's a grandma of 5, she's 78 years old, I gotta have as much energy for her as I do for Tyler Palumbo, who likes to squat every workout Monday at 6 o'clock.
I love it.
I have to have the same energy, and the food definitely makes a difference.
Okay.
Definitely.
Now let's touch on this.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say that some high school wrestlers in this state absolutely take PEDs. So even if one person takes it, that means it's being,
Right.
And many more, in my opinion, are probably contemplating taking PEDs.
Right.
So if you had a chance to get all the current kids using PEDs and all the current kids contemplating using PEDs, if you can get them all in one room, right now, what's Joe McAuliffe saying to them?
Well, first thing I'll say is I've never used it. I don't use it, and look at me.
Yeah, but
aside from that,
in
I'm
their eyes,
60.
you're old. In their eyes, you're an old man. You got to remember that.
But I can still whoop their ass on the bench press. But I understand
Yes.
you, and I do. I do PED education. I've done lots of lectures on this, and even more so now with what we have learned about nutrition and about training and what works. See, unfortunately, in this day and age, the kids are very short attention span and they want the quick fix. So rather than doing some homework and looking at their sleep, it's unprocessed food. You can go on keto, vegan, carnivore, paleo, whatever diet it is.
Trendy.
But
yeah.
they all work because no processed food, Mediterranean, no processed, natural foods. And then the training. Are you training like a fitness influencer, or are you training like a future college athlete? Are you training like an athlete? If you can pull those levers, and sleep is the biggest lever, that's where you get your hormones. At your age, you have more hormone than you'll ever need to get jacked.
Yeah.
Your growth hormone and testosterone between the ages of 13 and 20 are like through the roof. You want to make it work for you? Understand the sleep, because again, we're electronically, they're mesmerized by the electronics, and it messes up their sleep. Never getting their feet in the dirt or in the sand, in the ocean. A disconnect with nature affects your testosterone level. Understanding what your test is, what it does, and what your growth hormone is and what it does, understanding those things is part of the puzzle, and being able to understand the real side effects. Guess what? Your growth plates are gonna close, most likely, if you go on any elongated use of steroids or growth hormone or some of these fringe chemicals.
The average teenager watching this, you're probably speaking Greek to them.
Okay.
Remember that, right?
All right.
So, in layman's terms, in more easier defined words,
I'm gonna go there.
Explain to teenagers why they shouldn't be taking PEDs.
Hey, it'll mess with your growth plates. It'll cause them to close early. You want to be short. It can give you a permanent disfigurement of your heart. So you can be walking around with a big ass lopsided heart, and it can mess with your junk. It can mess with your testes and your testosterone and your sperm production, 100%. It also puts you at risk of roid rage. Kids screw their lives up in one traffic stop.
Of course.
And the next thing you know, they're in jail. Why? The steroids will make you cuckoo.
Yeah. Well, do you know anything about the drug testing policy or system in the NJSIA? Are you familiar with any of it?
I am, because I was one of the the experts that gave testimony to Governor Cody because of the problem back 25 years ago. And it's random at state. As soon as you qualify for state in all the sports.
Is it random?
That's what they say. That's what it's supposed to be.
Well, I think that's bullshit.
Well,
I don't think it's. It could be, but
could be.
Here's my thing. If you're going to test. Okay. I've heard some of the stories when and where kids get tested.
Right.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why this specific kid is going to get tested at this specific time in this specific school. I don't know. Do you agree with me that the state's got to do better if they really do want to crack down? What's your solution?
Well, if you want to really crack it down, you do random. You have someone from NJSIAA going to different high schools during the week unannounced. Oh, by the way, is Joey Schmoey, is he in the lineup? Well, Joey Schmoey got to come and piss in the cup.
But is being good a fair red flag for the state to say, we're going to test you? Or you could be on roids and be a 5-win and 27-loss wrestler.
Absolutely.
So what do you think the best way, the most fair way how to test kids?
Well, implement education. And I'll tell any wrestling team, if you want me to come, I will come for nothing to your school and talk to your kids about this very dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
Education, and then it's cultural. It has a lot to do with your coaches turning an eye, your parents turning an eye, and in some cases I've seen, unfortunately, the parents are supporting it.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll take this, we'll win states, and then we won't need it anymore. So it's not an easy fix. They don't have the manpower to be testing regularly, I don't think.
Yeah, but with the evolution of NIL, you would think it's a natural, the incentive to tamper with PEDs is there now like it's never been.
Of course.
And listen, as a wrestling purist, and I know that, PEDs have always been a part of sports.
Caffeine's a PED, bro.
I know. I think you know where I'm going with PED. I'm not going to make it into a science journal.
Yep.
But I just think, if it ever gets to the point where this is becoming more and more mainstream and less is being done about it, turn the other way, that's going to piss a lot of people off.
Sure.
I mean, it's going to piss a lot of people. And my point is, I think it's something coming. I think with the growth of NIL, I think we're going to start seeing a possible explosion of PED use, in my opinion. Why wouldn't you gamble here to cash in there?
Right.
It's human nature.
It is.
These are teenagers.
It is.
And a lot of these teenagers live in a single parent house.
Yeah.
They don't have
They need
guidance.
the money. Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm going to do what I got to do.
Right.
I think the state's got to start doing something about it.
More education, definitely more education.
Yeah.
And if every school had a certified strength and conditioning coach in the weight room all the time. I was at RBC 25 years. You think we ever had anybody pop a test? Never. Why? Is because the kids were getting what they need, not at the local gym where the guy in the corner has got the little, hey,
let me interrupt you though. If it was truly random over 25 years, RBC would have had a couple kids tested. Were anyone tested?
Oh, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, always, especially around state football playoffs.
Okay.
Because they've only recently become, since Sabino Portello, one of my guys, and my son was part of the resurgence of the program, that you see the wrestlers getting tested at regions or at states. But football, we had plenty of kids tested over the years because we were always in the playoffs.
Man, let's join let's collaborate and join some kind of a or create, I should say, some kind of a. We got to do something. We got to do something. Keep the sport as pure as possible.
I agree.
But I'm afraid it's not going down that avenue. I don't think it is.
So where's it come from, Doug? Does it come from the parents?
Money now.
Does it come
now
from,
it's money.
Now it's money.
Now it's money.
Is there that much money that it's gonna make people sacrifice my kid?
Joe,
so my son's not gonna have children, but he's gonna have a nice
Joe,
if
I'm growing up, if I'm a teenager and I'm growing up with the bare minimum.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I possibly could look at a payday of a couple $100,000 in college. That's a life-changing amount of money.
It is.
That I am absolutely willing to take a chance on right now.
Right.
To get a couple $100,000. And that number's just a
But a kid like that who's so motivated, who's so into it, why not pull all the levers that I talked about. Sleep, eat,
I
lift.
hear
Then
you.
you'll get the same result. I know plenty of kids that have gotten Division I scholarships without.
The kids at the top are the kids that put the time in.
Yep.
But let's not bullshit each other. We know that.
Yep.
Are there exceptions? Of course.
Yep.
But for the most part, if you're at the top of the game, you're not doing PEDs.
Right.
But PEDs aren't always a sign of not being good or being good. It just
Right.
sometimes it comes down to cheating, being lazy. I don't want to wait 6 months for results.
Right.
I want results right friggin' now.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
That's what happens in D3 football. You have way more, because I coached at Montclair State, and we had a problem.
Right.
We had a problem. That was again, that was a scuff between also me and the head coach. It was definitely because there's no testing.
Yeah.
So these kids cared more about just looking good and being able to play ball. I think that, to your point, that the PED epidemic, if there's going to be one, is going to be in that middle of the road kid who's trying to become this big stud. So how do we help that middle of the road kid who doesn't have a lot of resource, just a barbell, and hopefully a steak or some chicken at home? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a good night's sleep.
I hear you. No, I agree. Joe, here's your opportunity, man. The floor is yours, the forum's yours. Let's close this out by talking, in closing, what separates you from any other weight strength coach in the area, in the state, in the country, in the friggin' world? What separates you?
My experience with more than 10,000 humans, I speak I'm fluent in 20 languages. I'm fluent in wrestling. I'm fluent in football.
Okay, I got you.
I'm fluent in basketball.
Okay, you got
I'm
me
fluent in, I am fluent
like that. You
in
got me.
tennis,
You got me.
golf.
I was gonna say konnichiwa or something,
I have seen the highest level at every sport, an all-pro, Heisman Trophy, national champ, Olympian. That aside, I have trained thousands of people you'll never hear of to healthy lifestyles. So I, being an athlete myself and being educated and certified, I think that combination, I'm probably the only CSCS in America who also still holds the world record on the bench press. It's the connection with the kids and being able to teach them the self-care. Strength and conditioning, can help you win matches, can help you stay durable.
Yeah.
But this is something that can take care of you for the rest of your life. And you want to make sure that by the time they go away to college, by the time they leave the dojo, that they have these good habits. I still follow a lot of my kids that run a marathon, do the Tough Mudder. I got a gal, she's into ballroom dancing. Fit, healthy, active lifestyle. That's what you're going to get from me. And, some big muscles too.
So wrestling recovery, during the season, off season.
Okay, I'm glad you asked, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about the ice tub. A lot of misinformation. I do icing, I do an ice tub, and I have a sauna here at the gym. Okay, so wrestling is a brutal combat sport. So the first thing you have to do is look at the practice or the match and look at, okay, what happened during that period of time? Did, he land on his elbow? Did we have, get dinged in the head? Is there a healthy athlete coming out of a match? Okay, how do we recover? And again, just like you go back to the PED question, the answer is already inside you. Believe it or not, after a match, you see some of these kids, they go for jogs. You see some of them run, and I saw that at the state tournament a little bit. Your lymphatic, it's a big word, but basically there's a system in your body called your drainage system. That is controlled by your heart, your cardiovascular system. So recovery from a very hard workout, a very hard match, could be as simple as a walk. Don't go home and jump in the ice tub right after a match or a workout. You want inflammation to naturally occur. Okay. That's how a body gets tougher. That's how a body gets stronger. I wait my ice tub. I killed myself on Saturday. I waited until Sunday morning to do my ice tub.
12 hours later?
Yes, absolutely. And here's why. The ice tub will totally shut down inflammation. If you want to get stronger, you have to deal with inflammation. Part of the reason why prize fighters and wrestlers wrestle so hard in practice is to callous the body and make it tough. So the best thing to do again is to go home, eat, sleep, come back and beat the crap out of yourself again. The sauna is by far and away the best thing to do post-workout. Why? It heats you up and it promotes blood flow, opens the capillaries. So if you're inflamed, it's going to flame you up a little bit, but it's going to bring nutrients. So if you eat that steak after practice, the amino acids or everything are going to get into your muscles. So I was a part of the cold tub revolution 20 years ago. I saw a lot of my strength coach buddies in football leaning towards the cold tub. And my friend Paul Longo, I'll never forget, at Notre Dame, told me, he says, Joe, we got to cut back because my strength numbers for the last 2 winters have sucked with the kids who ice tub right after. And then all of a sudden they started ice tubbing next day, and his strength numbers started to go back up. So you have to know the when. And of course, all of the things like foam rolling, hypervolt massage, there's cupping, there's all of these wonderful techniques you can do, but they shadow in comparison to a good diet, to good sleep, and maybe a little bit of yoga and meditation. You know, the mindset of a really, really good competitor is one of Zen. These dudes know how, when you go to Fargo, when you got all the shit in Atlantic City.
Is there a true difference in, let's say my ice tub is set at 48 degrees, and yours is set at 36 degrees?
Mine's set at 52.
What I'm trying to get is there any more of a benefit the colder you go?
There's no research that shows anything under 49 is superior. What is superior is the temperature somewhere between 49 and say, I think 55, 56. I saw some studies that go all the way up to 59. Is that, can you sit in the damn thing? I've tried to sit in that 37, 38
You ever
degree.
do an ice bath?
Oh, it's pain. It's like somebody's stabbing.
It's bad.
Wait a minute though. You go in 52, it feels great. I can sit in there for 2 or 3 minutes. I start to shiver a little bit and I get out, and it's great for burning fat.
Well, the Atlantic Ocean's 52. I mean,
right. There you go.
Yeah.
The full-blown Wim Hof method of colder the better, the tougher, and
The Russians.
But there's the law of diminishing returns if you're just going by what the Russians do. You got to find out what's good for you. And again, the variability is between 49 and like 56, 57. They'll give you the effect. You want to get the effect.
And at what temperature are you wasting your time, in your opinion? For the people just starting off and aren't ready for the 50 degree. If they're doing it hypothetically at 65 degrees, are they wasting their time?
There's no waste of time when you refresh yourself. Like my pool right now. I did some aqua cardio this afternoon before I came, and the pool's like 62. My wife won't even go near it. She's like, oh, it's freezing. I'm like, whew, no way, man. It feels good. If you're adverse to cold, I always tell people, start with a little bit of a cold rinse on your face in the shower. Get used to the shower. And then tiptoe through the tulips a little bit into 60, 61.
Yeah, but we know the part that really is tough to get in there. You know.
Just sit down. I have one where
it's easier said than done. See, women don't have that problem.
I have more problem, believe it or not, with my hands.
Really?
Yeah, my hands go like really quick. And again, it's probably because I've now gotten my body fat under 15%. So like I get cold pretty damn quick.
I gotta pre-soak the the valuables before I get into a cold pool. I can't imagine just getting right into a cold plunge. No. I'm good.
Don't discard. Let's not discard. Let's put into the conversation the sun and sunlight. And sunlight is an incredible performance enhancing It's not a drug. It's a performance enhancer. Why?
Proven fact.
Early morning sunlight in your eyeballs resets your circadian rhythm, so you'll have better sleep. Early morning sunlight in your eyeballs will help your hormone system be like, ready to go. Here we go.
Is that why short conference wrestling is so hard? It's so badass because of the beach, the sunlight, the salt water, the cold water? Is there a direct?
There is a reason. If I go back to my earliest stint as a high school wrestling strength coach, it was the heyday of Ocean Township High School with Nick Mendito, Kyle Kiss, Jeff Siciliano, and the like, right? Yeah. Those kids were all surfers.
Yeah.
They all would surf as soon as States was over. Boom, they were out surfing, skateboarding. They were outside because we spend so much time inside. I guarantee you go to State, if you did blood analysis on all those kids, half of them are vitamin D deficient.
So
half of them.
So what I'm saying could be true, that the short conference wrestling, that conference, is good because most of the kids hang out at the beach. Most of them go surfing. Most of them are outside in the summer more than the kid. We might be onto something here.
I firmly believe that balance, because it is a very hard indoor sports. My basketball player is the same because you're playing inside all the time.
Yeah.
You have to balance that out and get outside in nature. Being in nature for 10 to 20 minutes a day has been proven to do X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. For recovery. We talk about recovery. And again, that's my holistic thing. I get barefoot in the morning, hydrate, coffee, sunlight, pray, get ready for my day. And that seems to set me up to have a healthier, more energetic day.
Joe McAuliffe, JMPowerU. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Attention, wrestling fans, parents, and future state champs. This is your podcast. We're shining a light on the toughest high school New Jersey wrestlers and coaches who are building warriors one takedown at a time. Follow us, like, and subscribe on your favorite platform. It doesn't cost you anything, but it goes a long way to support the show. Don't just watch the journey, be part of it.